Fish in a Tree, Chapter 35. A picture is worth a gazillion words. We have a sub. This is bad news. Then it gets even worse. We begin with an assignment to write about a person that we know who is brave. I start to come up with reasons to get out of the assignment, go to the nurse. I haven't yet met a sub who says no to a trip to the nurse when you tell them you're going to throw up on their shoes. I put on my sick look. Just as I was about to raise my hand, the sub turns to the class. Where's Ellie Nickerson? Huh? Freaky. I raise my hand. Oh, I have a note here that says you don't have to write, that you can draw a picture of your person. My face gets hot. Well, that figures, Shay says. She can practice her coloring, and then there will be Play-Doh and a nap time. My toes curl in my sneakers. I slide down into my chair. The sub looks at Shay and shakes her head, but the kids are already laughing, so what's the difference? The sub gives everyone a piece of lined paper, and she gives me a plain one. I sit stunned, wondering why Mr. Daniels would do this, betray me. Now I feel like I'm really going to throw up. I stand and have to concentrate on walking to move toward the door. Where are you going? The sub asks. Out. You come back here and do your picture now. I mean it. I'm finished. What are you talking about? It's blank. No, it's not blank. I drew a ghost in a blizzard. As the door slams behind me, I hear kids laughing at my answer. Soon I'm keeping Miss Silver's chair warm. So, Miss Nickerson, I must admit that I have enjoyed not seeing you lately. Things seem to be better with Mr. Daniels as your teacher. He's keeping you in line? Yeah, he's a peach, I say, with a cut in my voice. Are you going to call my mom? No, I don't think so. I want you to call her. Please call her. Why? Please, I ask. I don't even know why I'm asking exactly. She looks surprised, but is silent. She dials a number and talks for a bit. Tell her that I've had a tough day. Then she hands the phone to me. She would like to speak with you. I take the phone from her. Allie, what in the world is going on? I try not to cry, I really do, but the tears leak from my eyes. Everything is so tight inside, and I'm so tired of it being this way. It's not like I wake up every day planning to be a failure. And I thought I had finally found someone to help me, and then Mr. Daniels pulls this. Allie, did you hear me? Mom, is all I can get out, but it's squeaky and filled with longing to pull her through the phone wires to sit with me. I hear it in her voice. She feels as upset as I do. Put Miss Silvers back on the phone. Mrs. Silvers listens for a bit and finally says, oh, okay, Miss Nickerson, we'll be in touch then. I head to the bathroom and sit in a stall long enough for the evidence of crying to go away. When I get back to class, I ask Keisha to help me write a note so I am sure it's all correct. I leave it on Mr. Daniels' desk. I'm never reading after school or playing chess with you ever again, not ever. That afternoon, I drop into my usual spot at Peterson's. I wonder what my mom will say about the call from the school. When she comes over, she kisses the top of my head, which says it all. So, a ghost in a blizzard, huh? She smiles at me. I half smile. Yeah, pretty funny, I think. She leans over and puts her hand on my cheek. And it's everything I can do not to cry right there in front of everyone. I trusted him, I tell her. He was the first teacher who... And I stop because I can't say the words. You know, honey, I bet there's an explanation for this. I bet Mr. Daniels didn't mean for this to happen. Give him a chance, okay? I nod. I hope she's right because I want to think that Mr. Daniels is something... Because I want to think that Mr. Daniels doing something mean to anyone is like a fish swimming upside down and backward. Chapter 36 in the Game of Life. The first thing, Mr. Daniels calls me into the hallway. So I heard there was a little bit of trouble yesterday. I fold my arms. Teachers often leave special instructions for a sub, but she was not supposed to share my notes with the class. I figured I'd write her a note telling her you could do a picture so she didn't pressure you to write. I know that you struggle, and I thought I was helping you, but I see I shouldn't have handled it by singling you out that way. Allie, I think you know I would never hurt you on purpose. I do know that. And I'm so relieved to hear him say it. I'm so sorry. I really am. I hope you can forgive me. He holds out his hand to shake, and I shake back. That afternoon, Mr. Daniels moves his king, placing it on a black square between his own bishop and my knight, and I see the three of us, Albert, Keisha, and me. With Keisha as a bishop, tall and powerful and able to move across the entire board in one move. With Albert being the king, the piece with a ton of value, but the one unable to move more than one space at a time, always taking tiny steps, always running and hiding behind the others. And then there's the knight, the piece that Mr. Daniels says is the clever one, the best piece for catching opponents in a fork, a piece that moves only in an L. I feel like I'm the knight, as I've spent my whole life jumping over things. Shay is the queen, the piece with the most power to move and frighten, the piece most protected and sacrificed for. I realize that dealing with Shay every day is like playing chess. She is always looking for your weakness, always trying to get you flustered and force you into a mistake. Against her, you have to remember that the board is always changing and moving. Keep your eyes open. Be careful. Have a plan. Realize that you can only stay on the defensive for so long. Eventually, you have to take a stand. But no matter what, don't give up, because every once in a while, a pawn becomes a queen. Well, Mr. Daniels asks, pulling me from my mind movie. You've been thinking a long time over there, thinking about your move? I look back down. I search. I haven't beaten him lately, and I so want to. And then I see it. It's the knight. The answer is in the knight. I pick it up, move it, and hold my finger on top to be sure I haven't made a mistake. Yep, I put his king in check and given him nowhere else to move. Checkmate. He throws up his hands but seems happy. You didn't let me win, right? Allie, I have 3 brothers. I am not capable of letting someone win. He laughs a little. I think you're just invincible. And then he winks and begins taking the pieces off the board and putting them in the box. I am sad the game is over, and I'm relieved that I trust him again. And isn't it funny? I've gone from invisible to invincible. Chapter 37. A chicken, a wolf, and a problem. Because it's Fantastical Friday, Mr. Daniels has planned a puzzle for us to solve. He draws some squiggly lines from top to bottom on the board and tells us it's a river. Then he proves he is the worst artist ever by drawing a chicken, a wolf, and a bag of grain on one side of the water. Mr. Daniels, did you draw that with your eyes closed? Oliver yells. No offense, but that's terrible. He laughs. I'm not offended, Oliver. I have eyes to see it. And then he looks at me. We're not all wired to be gifted artists. Then he adds a little boat, which looks a lot like a banana on the bank of the river. Okay, he says, here's your problem to solve. You need to get all 3 of these items across the river, but you can only take them one at a time in the boat. You can't leave the wolf alone with the chicken because the chicken will become lunch. You can't leave the chicken with the grain or the grain will become lunch. So how do you get all 3 items across the river? Remember, only 1 item in the boat at a time. Easy, Oliver yells. You just take the chicken first. What happens after that? Then you take the grain. But what will happen to the grain when you go back to the wolf? In a couple of seconds, Oliver drapes himself over his desk. Mr. Daniels pats Oliver on the back. It's okay, kiddo. It's supposed to be hard. Mr. Daniels turns to Suki. Any idea? She puts her pointer finger on her chin. If you take the grain first, wait. If you take the wolf, she sighs and shrugs. I don't know. Albert's eyebrows are so scrunched up they look like they'll cover his eyes. Take a few minutes to try and solve on your own, and then we'll talk about it in a bit. I can't figure it out. No one can. Most kids have drawn a river and the animals like Mr. Daniels did. After a while, kids start talking to each other. I'm surprised when he doesn't tell us to be quiet while we try to keep solving it. I tear off 3 little pieces of paper and draw the chicken on the first, the grain on the second, and the wolf on the third. I move them around back and forth across the river. The class is loud now. I pick up my 3 pieces of paper and ask Mr. Daniels if I can work in the hallway because of the noise. Sure, go ahead. I'm out there just a few minutes moving my pieces around when Shay and Jessica come out. They sit across the hall from me. I guess they came out here to work too. This is dumb, Jessica says. Tell me about it, Shay answers. Who cares about chickens and wolves or whatever? Do you know the answer, Allie? Jessica asks. Why are you asking her? Of course she doesn't know. Shay says. She whispers something to Jessica, and soon after Shay is holding up signs with words. Can you read this, Allie? I try to ignore them. I'm not going to let her see me upset. I remember, life with Shay is like playing chess. Don't get frustrated. Don't make mistakes. You can't read it, can you? The baby voice doesn't bother me as much as the words themselves. I try to concentrate on solving this problem. Shay moves closer to me. You are so stupid, Allie. You know, Mr. Daniels is only nice to you because he feels sorry for you. Come on, Shay, let's go back inside, Jessica squeaks. Don't come on me, Shay snaps. Whose side are you on? I'm on yours, Jessica says, but it isn't the sound of loyalty, it's the sound of fear. I stand up, go into the classroom, and go into the corner behind Mr. Daniels' desk. It's hard for me to push the sound of Shay's voice out of my head, but I remind myself that just because someone says it doesn't make it true. I concentrate on 3 pieces of paper, the chicken, the wolf, and the grain. I move the pieces of the paper around on the floor. It takes me a while, but I realize that you need to take more than 3 trips. You need to take the chicken and the grain, but then take the chicken back with you and leave it while you take the wolf. Then you leave the wolf with the grain and go back for the chicken. I leap up. I got it. Keisha and Albert are surprised. So am I. Mr. Daniels comes over and I whisper the answer in his ear. Impressive work, Allie. He says I can go around and help others for the last remaining minutes. Allie, Max says in a loud whisper, what's the answer? Come tell us how you did it. By now, Shay and Jessica have come back in and they see me helping Max. When I swing by her, Shay says in a low voice, you're still a loser, Allie, a total and complete loser. But Jessica smiles a bit at me. Mr. Daniels calls us back to our seats. Okay, that was a 2-part assignment. The first was to solve the puzzle. The second was to see who could stick with it, who would work on it until it was solved. Congratulations to the few of you that did. If you are one of the many that gave up and started talking to your friends about soccer and other things, I want you to consider that no matter how smart you are, success is reached with hard work too. I can't believe it. My experience with endless frustration and having to work on things for so long has actually paid off. I guess maybe I'm having trouble is not the same as I can't. Chapter 38, Loser for President. So fantastical, Mr. Daniel says. I've told you about nominating a class president for a first-ever school-wide student government. Do we have our first nomination? Jessica raises her hand. I nominate Shay. Shay looks back at her and turns forward. She looks like she's ready for her crown. Okay, good. Another nomination? Come on. No one? Come on. We can't have an election with only one name. I wait, glancing around. I know there will be no more names because Shay has made it known since Mr. Daniels first announced the election that anyone who runs against her will regret it. In fact, their children and their children's children will regret it, and she can actually do something like that. Nope, there will be no more names. Albert raises his hands. Whoa, Albert, way to be brave. I glance back at Shay, whose eyes are now little slits. But then Albert just asks to go to the bathroom. After waiting and prodding, Mr. Daniel finally says, I'll draw a name out of the hat or tell the council that we don't have a representative. Come on, folks, step up. Another wait. Then Shay raises her hand. Well, Shay, this is good sportsmanship. Who will you nominate? She cracks a smile. I nominate Allie Nickerson. Wait. No, she didn't say me. I look back at her staring at me while Mr. Daniels compliments her again, and then it hits me like a boulder. Of course. She wants to win, so she nominated me, a surefire loser. Is that okay, Mr. Daniels asks me. Can I say no? Yeah, you can say no, but I think you should run. I really, really want to say no, just not to him. Okay, I'll do it, I guess. Good, he says. Now both of you will need to say a few words tomorrow for the voting, and the voting will follow. Oh, I get to write a speech, Shay says to Jessica. Then I can hear her whisper, I am terrified. I can't write a speech. After school, Mr. Daniels apologizes for not being able to help me today because he has class at the college. However, he suggests that I just be honest about why I want to be a president of the class. He asks if my mom can work with me tonight. I tell him that she will. I know she would in a heartbeat, but I would never ask her to help with this. I would just get her hopes up. I figure I should write something down if Shay is going to. I look like a baby with no speech, so I sit down at our dining room table with a blank piece of paper, all bright white and staring at me and making my head hurt. I want to ask my mom for help so bad, but if she knows I'm running for president of the class, she'll get excited and she'll want it even more than me. I'm afraid to want it. But a mind movie shows me at the front of the class and Mr. Daniels congratulating me, and I have to admit that I really would like it. I pick up the pencil and concentrate real hard. When I write, I press on the paper so hard, but I can't help it. It makes my hand hurt. I try to spell as best I can. It takes me an hour and a half to write 2 paragraphs. I finally go to bed praying for a high fever, the kind of sickness the whole town folks talk about. The kind of sickness that Albert would find super interesting. A good reason not to show up tomorrow. Chapter 39, To Shay. On the way to school, I wonder about taking the long way, like through Mexico. When I arrive, the first thing I see is Albert, who has a black eye. Albert, Keisha says, when are you going to teach those boys a lesson? It's nothing, he says, all serious, and then he gets happy. Look, he holds up a big sign for me. Allie is your ally. Give her your vote. You made me a poster for the election, I ask, smiling. I know I'm going to lose, but this makes it okay. Thank you, Albert. He looks proud. But, why does it say my name twice? Your name is a homonym. I should know better than to question Albert. You know, a word with the same spelling but different sounds and meanings. Allie spells your name, but it also spells ally with a long I sound at the end. An ally is someone who is on your side, someone who sticks by you, like allies in wars. Shay comes by with Jessica. She looks like a poster. Then at the three of us. Good luck, six-legged freak. I guess Allie will get 3 votes anyway. After they leave, I look at the three of us and think about how there are 3 primary colors. There are 3 primary colors, yellow, blue, and red. Those 3 colors create every other color ever. Keisha goes over to talk to Suki after I take a deep breath and turn to Albert. I know I'm going to lose, and Shay will never let me forget it. I look down at the desk and see Albert's sign. But at least I'll have a poster. I smile at him. Can I bring it home? Yes, but you can't give up, Albert says. Okay, well, maybe you're right, Albert. But you shouldn't give up either. I'm not nominated for class president. I point at his black eye. But you got beat up again, didn't you? He shifts his weight and looks away. It's hardly the same, he says. I feel sad that he doesn't see that it isn't too different. Then Keisha returns. Are you ready for today? No, I shake my head. Ready for public humiliation? How do I get into these things? She leans over and whispers, You'll do a good job. Albert and I are voting for you no matter what you say in your speech. I half smile. What if I say you have to lick the lunch tables clean? Well, I just won't do it. That will be easy, Keisha says, pushing my shoulder. Albert adds, It depends what we have for lunch that day. We laugh. I'm happy that he doesn't seem mad about my questioning him. Mr. Daniels is wearing a George Washington tie. He gets up and calls Shay to present first. I notice she is dressed in red, white, and blue. I look down. I didn't even think about wearing anything special. Shay talks about how great she is and all that she'll do. Kids applaud over her promises. Some of the things she says she'll do, I can't imagine how she'll pull it off, like extra recess and longer snack times. When she promises new, bigger lockers for the hallways, I know she can't do that. With every sentence, kids are happier and I feel smaller and smaller. I get up there holding my paper. The sound that comes out of my mouth doesn't sound like a real word. I try again and get the same sound. Then 4 more times. The quiet laughs rise all around me, but Mr. Daniels holds his palms toward the class without taking his eyes off me, and then noise stops. I feel hot. Then Etch-a-Sketch brain hits me, and I go blank staring at the page. What I wrote. That I can't read. Shay looks smug, and it makes it even harder. Mr. Daniels bends over, resting his hands on his knees. He whispers, Look, you can do this, and you can hit it out of the park, too. I shake my head a little. I believe in you, Allie. Now forget what you wrote. Put the paper down and take a deep breath. Close your eyes if it makes you nervous to see everyone, and just be honest. Be you. He slides the paper out of my hands, and I stand there silent for too long. I do close my eyes, wishing it would block their view of me as well. Mr. Daniels' voice is gentle, almost a whisper. I want to be president of the class because I think it will be fun, and I would like it. I say, eyes still closed. Good, keep going, he says. I promise to be honest. I promise to work hard. I promise to listen to everyone who has ideas, not just my friends, because I would be in charge of the whole class. Well, not in charge exactly, but I want everyone to have a chance to give their ideas. I'll go to the meetings, and I would try to get extra things like recess, but I can't promise that I can do something like that. I open my eyes and look at Mr. Daniels. Can I do that? Actually, no, you don't want me fired, do you? I shake my head, feeling kind of dazed. Do you have anything else to say? I don't think so. Okay, then he motions toward my seat, and I sit down, stunned that it's over. Now for the vote, he says. He begins to pass out little pieces of paper. Wait, Shay says. All the other teachers have just had everyone raise their hands. Well, I thought it should be more like a real election, a secret ballot. Everyone will write the name of their choice for his class president on the paper and fold it up. I will walk around and collect them. That's not fair. Well, he shrugs. If it's good enough for the U.S. government, it's good enough for us. I smooth out the tiny piece of paper and try hard to be neat. There's a lump in my throat as I write down my own name, and I don't even know why. Maybe because I'm not writing it down on a sign-up sheet for a detention or signing an apology for something. I fold it 1, 2, 3 times and put it in the basket when Mr. Daniels comes by. He says he'll let us know later, but everyone begs him to count them now, so he does. He opens up the first one, Shay. He opens up another, Shay. He opens up a third, Shay. But when he opens up the next 4, they are for me, and I'm surprised. A few more for Shay, and then 4 more for me. 4 more? I can't imagine who would vote for me. I thought everyone loved Shay, but as I look around the room, some kids are glancing at me, and some actually look happy. Oliver and Suki and a bunch of the other kids. Toward the end of the counting, it looks like I've actually won. Shay crosses her arms and falls back against her chair. In the end, Mr. Daniels shakes hands with Shay and tells her she ran a good campaign. Then he turns to me and says, "Congratulations, Madam President Nickerson." And then he salutes me and laughs. The class claps. Keisha is up and dancing while Albert gives me a single nod. "Mr. Daniels," Max raises his hand, "I think this calls for a party." "Why, Max? Because it's a Wednesday?" "Any day is a good day for a party, Mr. D," he says, and Shay looks annoyed with him. But her real dagger eyes are saved for me. At least she's quiet for once, and that's perfectly fine with me.